So we're going to take some steps to make it so that when we add the value of our task in here, we can click a button and then the value shows up underneath here. And we're going to do that using something called Redux. Redux is a more universal state manager in React. For those of you who understand already how states work in React, it could be pretty easy to sort of just put a state in here and then that would flow down into this component. But it's hard to have a state assigned on a lower level component and bring it further up. That could be pretty easily explained if you watch a video on Redux and what its purpose is intended. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a separate folder in here for our Redux, and that's where we're going to save our state into. So creating a new folder, Redux, and we have to install Redux onto our project. So we're going to pull up another command prompt because this command prompt is being used by the current application. So we're going to install npm install at redux.js/toolkit. Then we'll add a file, call it to-do slice.js. We're going to import create slice from redux.js/toolkit. And then const to-do slice equals create slice. And we'll name this to-dos. The initial state will be an empty array, and that's where we're going to put our objects into this array, just objects with the objects explaining with properties for our to-dos. And then reducers, which is an object that contains all of our reducers. The one that we're going to need in order to add our value for our state into here. So reducers, add to do, state action. So these two variables, the state refers to basically what's up here, and action refers to the action that we're going to go ahead and execute from here when we click on a button and send our state over to our Redux. So we'll go state.push task name action.payload.task name. And for now, we'll just leave these reducers as is. We're going to add more later, such as for deleting the to-dos and such. But for now, we'll just leave this one right here, because take it one thing at a time. So just add some commas here just to keep the syntax happy. And down here, we have to export this reducer and our entire slice. So we go export const add to do, save to dos, delete to do equals to do slice dot actions, and export default to do slice reducer. So we're exporting our actions here and our reducers here. And in the same folder, we have to create our Redux store. We'll call it store.js. And we'll import configure store from @redux.js/toolkit. Import to-do reducer from to-do slice. Export default configure store reducer to-dos to-do reducer. So this is where we're exporting our store with our to-do reducer in here. And in order to deploy this store, we're going to go into our index.js folder and import this store right here into here. So import store from so it's one folder up, so src down into Redux /store. And what we're going to do here is we also need to import provider from React Redux. Then wrap the app component into our provider with our store. I think we also need to presumably because it didn't also install React Redux when we installed at Redux.js/toolkit, so also needed to install React Redux. So now we've got our Redux configured. And we can probably go back at this point to form.js. This should work at this point. But what we need to do is we need to import use dispatch from React Redux. Down here, what we're going to do is we're going to use dispatch in order to import this reducer right here, so we can send our state to there to add it to our list of to-dos. So const dispatch equals use dispatch and we'll add our button right here as well. So our button is going to have a function on click equals an inline function submit and we'll define this function submit. This function submit's going to be what ultimately sends our state over to Redux. Function submit, and here we're going to dispatch our add to do function that we created in here. We actually have to import that here as well, so import add to do from, we're going 2 folders up to src, then down to Redux, and then down to to-do slice. So in here we're dispatching our add to do function. And so here in our to do slice, what it's doing is it's going to take what we send to it, and it's going to add to this array the task name. So the task name is going to be action payload task name. So we want this variable task name to be in there. So task name equals the task that we assign right here. So this variable, so we're sending this variable in the form of the property tax name into here. Then put a comma there, semicolon there. And then one last thing in this component, we're going to want to, after this is fulfilled, we're going to want to set task back to blank. That's what's going to ultimately help us to make that input component blank again, so that we don't just type something in here and then click submit and then this thing is still in here. It's going to wipe it out at that point. Let's go ahead and save this and make sure, yeah, it looks like everything came out properly. So that's what we're doing right now for just our form component. I'm going to end the video here, and the next one's going to be where we create a list component, where when we go ahead and type something in here, such as wash dishes, then we click submit, we're going to have a list component that lists these things under here.